So one of the biggest things that I've learned is that you have to test your assumptions, and a lot of things that you're afraid of happening just simply don't happen in the real world. The normative real world of the way people actually do things actually don't carry out with the assumptions that you might have in your mind. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massac. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for it to help you out as much as I possibly can. I'm out on a walk. I just had a thought about this, but a lot of people think of the hello, hi guys. Think about the assumptions on working on something. And so I just asked somebody, so I just wanted to say hello. So one of the things that a lot of people get afraid about is that something in the real world is going to work in a certain way. And it holds them back from actually doing something. And they get scared from doing it. So right now I'm actually thinking about building this software platform, the reciprocity software that I'm building. The E is written with a 3. You can go check it out. It's a sharing economy editing platform where it's sort of a combination of where you interact with people and they help you with your writing, but then there's sort of AI and tools and stuff like that that are built into it. But one of the assumptions that, especially early on, are sort of two assumptions that I get a fair bit when I'm building this, and it's pretty common. The first one is that people are going to use this thing to sort of cheat and pass things, um, you know, do a lot less work than what they should do. And the second one is sort of related to that in the sense that um, if you have this sort of document that you put online and somebody, so, a student, for example, puts a document online and then they get most of their work written from some other professional editor that's on there. But what's really interesting is that I've reviewed hundreds and hundreds of test documents at this moment. So it's one of the tasks that I get people to do is to do two test sort of reviews of the editing and see how they're actually doing. But what's funny is that most people actually do not put a heck of a lot of effort into it. So there are some people that are really good and outstanding, but then the majority of people just kind of put in a sort of mediocre, middle of the road effort in terms of their editing. And so we have stopgaps and stuff that are built into the platform to encourage people to actually do more work. But at the same time, people just try to do the bare minimum to meet those stopgaps. And I think that's the really interesting thing here is that, we're afraid of what people are going to do. And so we actually don't do something. So we're afraid of somebody like cheating and, having sort of paper mills and stuff like that. But in reality, most people actually don't do that. And if we build a system that, um, you know, captures some, or if we build a system that sort of does this fairly, that's out in the open, and we make it sort of safe and legitimate, I think it's actually a sort of good way to do this because it's a gray market that that I'm personally trying to navigate, or my development team and I are personally trying to navigate with this. But what's interesting is that the fears of sort of creating something where it's like people cheat and they extend what they're doing doesn't really play out in reality. And most people, if you just look at behavior, and it's obvious once you test and once you sort of see this, most people are sort of naturally lazy, right? We as human beings are human beings. We're like any other organism. We try to economize on resources that we have available, and so we try to just do the minimum that we could possibly do. And this is not necessarily obvious when you go into building something like this. It should be obvious after the fact it is, but that's the importance of testing your assumptions and actually pursuing something, jumping into it, but then testing what you're actually doing, because you're never really going to get a sense of like how actually people sort of behave and do things until you actually see what they're doing. Um, and that's the important thing with a lot of stuff, is that we have sort of these fears and anxieties and stresses or whatever, whatever you might call them, in your mind, and you get all caught up with it. But then when you look at reality, it's completely different, to what actually plays out. And it's, it's far more difficult than you'd imagine to sort of encourage people to do things. And then, the second thing is that it's not as big of a deal as what you'll ever think it's going to be, right? So 80% of your fears and anxieties actually never really get carried out in the real world. That's some random number that I just pulled out of my butt, but you know what I'm saying? Like the vast majority of them never really play out, and they're just your worries in terms of something that's happening. Now, should you mitigate those risks and mitigate the problems that actually might happen? Yes, you should do that, and that's what we're doing in the platform. But um, should you spend a tremendous amount of time worrying and stressing out over it? No, not really. You should just try to execute and see what happens. You can always shut it down, or you can just like stop what you're doing. It's not necessarily a big thing, but you have to be just aware of what's going on, and invest, resources and some time into it, but then sort of focus on the fact that you're actually building and growing something and developing something and moving towards, a bigger goal. And I think that's where we should sort of realize, is that to not get caught up in all of your worries and stresses, and keep moving forward and test, as much as you can. Put something out, see what happens, and explore from there, and then work from that, rather than getting caught up with what you actually, all of the worries that you have. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. I think it's an important lesson for me, and I have to repeatedly learn that lesson, but hopefully it's going to help you out. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.